The ancient fortress of Darkmoon Station hung in the void like a metal spider, its black arms reaching into space. For the first time in galactic history, the 5 most powerful warlords had gathered in one place. The massive chamber was filled with tension as beings who had never shown fear to anyone now faced their greatest terror. Warlord Nexus rose from his throne, his massive frame casting shadows across the room. His 4 arms, each capable of crushing steel, trembled slightly as he spoke. "Brothers, I have called this meeting because I can no longer hide the truth. 3 months ago, my scouts reported that human ships had entered the Scorpion Nebula. I ordered them to turn back immediately." The other warlords stirred uneasily. Warlord Grimjaw, whose razor-sharp teeth had earned him his name, leaned forward. "You retreated from humans? The weakest species in the galaxy?" "Weak?" Nexus laughed bitterly. "Show me another species that has never lost a single war. Show me another race that turns every enemy into a devoted ally. The humans aren't weak, Grimjaw. They're the most dangerous force the galaxy has ever seen." Warlord Shadowbane, cloaked in darkness, spoke from her corner. "Nexus speaks truth. Last year, I sent my entire death fleet to crush a human colony. 50,000 warriors, the finest killers in my empire. Do you know what happened?" The room fell silent. "They never fired a shot." Shadowbane continued. "The humans started broadcasting messages about medical supplies. They knew about the plague killing our younglings back home. Within hours, my warriors were crying. They begged me to let them help the humans instead of destroying them." Warlord Vex, whose cybernetic body gleamed silver, stood up abruptly. "The same thing happened to me. I've studied every human conflict for 5 years. The pattern never changes. First, humans learn everything about their enemies, not their weaknesses, but their suffering. Then they offer help, real help. Before you know it, your own soldiers are calling humans their saviors." Warlord Grimjaw slammed his fist on the table. "This is madness. We are conquerors. We don't help our enemies." "That's exactly why we can't beat them," Nexus said quietly. "We think like predators. Humans think like healers. When we see weakness, we attack. When humans see weakness, they help. And somehow that makes them invincible." Shadowbane activated a holographic display showing a star map. Yellow dots representing human territory had spread across 1/3 of the galaxy. "Look at this expansion rate. But notice something strange. They're not conquering these systems. Every single one joined them voluntarily. The Bloodclaw Empire, the Void Reapers, the Nightmare Collective, all of them now fight for humanity." "The Void Reapers?" Grimjaw gasped. "But they eat their own children." "Not anymore," Vex replied grimly. "The humans taught them to farm. Now they're the galaxy's largest food producers. They send grain to feed refugee camps across 12 systems. The same creatures who once terrorized the galaxy now spend their days helping others." Warlord Nexus pulled up another display showing battle statistics. "Our military computers have run every possible scenario. The result is always the same. If we attack humans, we lose. Not because they destroy us, but because they convert us. And once you've been converted, you'd rather die than harm a human." Grimjaw's scarred face showed confusion. "How is this possible? What weapon do they use?" "Love," Shadowbane whispered. "They actually love their enemies." The word hung in the air like poison. Love was unknown among the warlords. They understood fear, hatred, and respect. But love for enemies was alien to everything they believed. Vex brought up classified footage of human soldiers. "Watch this. Human medics treating wounded enemy fighters. Human engineers rebuilding cities they just conquered. Human teachers learning alien languages to better communicate with prisoners. They don't just defeat you, they make you want to be better." "It's infectious," Nexus added. "Species that join humans start helping others too. The galaxy is becoming kinder, and we're becoming obsolete." Warlord Grimjaw stood up, his massive form towering over the others. "So what do you propose? We just hide from humans forever?" "Yes," all 4 warlords said in unison. The chamber fell silent as the full weight of their decision settled in. The 5 most feared beings in the galaxy had just agreed to run from punked creatures they could crush with their bare hands. We issue the Galactic Isolation Decree, Nexus announced. No warlord attacks human territory. No contact with human ships. No engagement with human representatives. We retreat to the far edges of space and pray they never find us. As the meeting ended, each warlord knew they faced a terrible truth. They weren't refusing to fight humans because they might lose their armies. They were refusing because they might lose something far more precious, their ability to be monsters. And in a galaxy built on fear and conquest, that was the most terrifying prospect of all. Warlord Vex moved to the center of the chamber, his silver cybernetic body reflecting the dim lights. With a gesture, he activated the most classified database in galactic history. Holographic files materialized in the air, each one marked with warnings in 17 different languages. What you're about to see, Vex announced, is why I will never fight humans again. The first file opened, showing a star system consumed in flames. The Bloodclaw Empire, Vex began. 20 billion savage warriors who lived only for battle. They carved out an empire by eating their enemies alive. For 3,000 years, they were the galaxy's most feared predators. Warlord Grimjaw nodded, grimly. I remember them. They once ate an entire moon's population just for entertainment. 6 months ago, they encountered humans, Vex continued. The hologram shifted to show massive red ships attacking smaller human vessels. The Bloodclaw fleet outnumbered the humans 50-1. Their ships were armored with living bone that could regenerate from any damage. Victory should have taken minutes. The display showed the opening moments of battle. Bloodclaw ships tore through human defenses like paper. Escape pods fled the dying human vessels while the cannibalistic warriors celebrated their easy prey. Then this happened, Vex said quietly. The hologram focused on one human escape pod. Instead of fleeing to safety, it was heading directly toward the largest Bloodclaw warship. A transmission began broadcasting on all frequencies. Bloodclaw warriors, came a calm human voice. My name is Captain Riley Morgan. I know you're going to capture me. Before you do, I have information about the bone rot plague affecting your younglings. Shadowbane leaned forward. Bone rot? How could humans know about that? The Bloodclaw kept it secret for years, Vex explained. Their children were dying, their bones dissolving from within. It was destroying their species, but their pride wouldn't let them ask for help. The hologram showed Bloodclaw warriors hesitating as the human pod docked with their ship. Captain Morgan, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, stepped out alone and unarmed. I'm a xenobiologist, Morgan said to the surprised warriors surrounding her. I've spent years studying bone rot. I know you've lost millions of children. I know your healers are helpless. I know your great war chief Skullrender lost his own son to this plague. The Bloodclaw warriors, who moments before had been ready to devour her, stood frozen. Their leader, a massive creature covered in battle scars, stepped forward. How do you know of my son? Warchief Skullrender growled. Because I know pain when I see it, Morgan replied softly. You're not monsters. You're a species in agony, lashing out because you're watching your children die. Vex paused the recording. What happened next changed everything. The hologram resumed. Captain Morgan was pulling medical equipment from her pod. I've brought medicine that can stop bone rot. I've brought the genetic code for a permanent cure. All I ask is that you let me help your children. Why? Skullrender demanded. We were about to kill you. Because no parent should have to bury their child, Morgan answered simply. The chamber fell silent as they watched the impossible unfold. The galaxy's most savage warriors began to weep. Creatures who had never shown mercy in 3 millennia were crying like children. Within 6 hours, Vex continued, the entire Bloodclaw fleet had ceased their attack. Within a week, Captain Morgan had cured thousands of dying Bloodclaw younglings. Within a month, the Bloodclaw Empire had disbanded their military and become healers themselves. Nexus shook his head in disbelief. The Bloodclaw Empire became healers? They now run the largest children's hospital in the galaxy, Vex confirmed. Former cannibals spend their days caring for sick alien children. They've saved more lives in 6 months than they took in 3,000 years. Grimjaw's razor teeth chattered nervously. One human did this, one small female? That's the terrifying part, Vex said, bringing up more files. This isn't unique. Look at these records. The Venom Syndicate, masters of biological warfare. They met human scientist Dr. Kevin Walsh during a plague outbreak. He taught them to create vaccines instead of diseases. Now they cure plagues across the galaxy. Another file opened. The Skull Raiders, who built pyramids from enemy bones. They encountered human archaeologist Professor Janet Kim. She showed them how to build monuments that celebrated life instead of death. They're now the galaxy's finest artists. The conversion rate is 100%, Vex stated flatly. Every single species that has fought humans now serves them loyally, not out of fear or conquest, but out of gratitude and love. Warlord Nexus stood up heavily. Show them the psychological profiles. A new display revealed brain scans of various species before and after human contact. Notice the changes in the aggression centers, Vex pointed out. After working with humans, these beings literally become incapable of unnecessary violence. Their brains rewire themselves for cooperation. It's like a virus, Grimjaw whispered. A virus of kindness. Exactly, Vex agreed. And it's spreading. Species that have been helped by humans start helping others. The Bloodclaw now send medical aid to former enemies. The Venom Syndicate shares their vaccines freely. The Skull Raiders build memorials for those they once slaughtered. The weight of this revelation settled on the assembled warlords. They were facing an enemy that didn't destroy civilizations. It healed them. An enemy that didn't conquer through force. It conquered through love. This is why we cannot fight them, Vex concluded. We built our power on fear and hatred. Humans build theirs on compassion and understanding. In a direct conflict, our own soldiers would defect to their side. As the evidence files closed, each warlord understood the terrible truth. They weren't just refusing to fight humans to avoid military defeat. They were refusing to fight because exposure to human kindness would destroy everything they were. In a galaxy where strength meant brutality, humans had found a different kind of strength entirely, and it was absolutely unstoppable. Warlord Grimjaw's scarred hands trembled as he accessed his most shameful memory. The holographic display shifted to show a dark space station hidden in an asteroid field. His fellow warlords watched in tense silence as he prepared to reveal his greatest failure. 2 months ago, Grimjaw began, his voice barely a whisper. I decided to test a different approach. If humans could convert armies through kindness, perhaps a single assassin could solve our problem permanently. The hologram showed a sleek black ship departing from the hidden station. Inside was Grimjaw's most deadly weapon, Razor, a cybernetic killer who had never failed a mission in 300 years. Razor was perfect, Grimjaw explained. No emotions, no conscience, no capacity for mercy. His neural implants blocked all psychological manipulation. I thought he was immune to human influence. The display followed Razor's ship as it approached a human research station, orbiting a peaceful blue planet. The target was Captain James Fletcher, a human diplomat who had successfully negotiated peace treaties with dozens of hostile species. Fletcher was dangerous, Grimjaw continued. Our intelligence showed he had convinced the Wraith Syndicate to stop their soul-harvesting operations. He turned the Dream Eaters into protectors of sleeping children. Every species he met abandoned their violent ways. The hologram showed Razor infiltrating the research station with deadly precision. His cybernetic enhancements allowed him to bypass every security system. Within minutes, he had located Fletcher's quarters. Warlord Vex leaned forward. What went wrong? Grimjaw's face contorted with remembered pain. Nothing went wrong with the plan. Everything went wrong with Razor himself. The display showed the assassin entering Fletcher's room. The human diplomat was sitting at his desk working late into the night. He looked up calmly as the deadly figure emerged from the shadows. You must be Razor, Fletcher said without fear. I've been expecting you. The assassin raised his weapon, a plasma blade that could cut through any material. "You know why I'm here." "Yes," Fletcher replied simply. "You're here because someone is afraid of what humans represent. But before you kill me, may I ask you something?" Razor hesitated. His programming had never accounted for casual conversation. During an assassination, "How long has it been since you've seen your daughter?" The question hit Razor like a physical blow. His weapon wavered slightly. "My daughter is dead." "No," Fletcher said gently, pulling up a holographic image. "Kira is alive. She's on Medical Station 7, dying from neural decay. The same condition that's slowly killing you." The hologram showed a young cybernetic girl lying in a hospital bed, her systems failing one by one. Razor's emotionless facade cracked as he recognized his own features in the child's face. "Impossible," Razor whispered. "She died in the war." "She survived," Fletcher explained. "But she's been searching for you for years. The neural implants you both carry are deteriorating. She has maybe a week left." Grimjaw paused the recording, his voice heavy with defeat. This is where everything fell apart. The hologram resumed, showing Fletcher standing up slowly, making no threatening moves. "I've been working on a cure for neural decay. I can save her, but I need your help." "Why?" Razor demanded, his weapon still raised. "I came here to kill you." "Because no father should lose his daughter," Fletcher said simply. "And because healing is what humans do." The next scenes played out like a nightmare for Grimjaw. Instead of completing his mission, Razor found himself working alongside Fletcher to synthesize a cure for neural decay. The human diplomat shared decades of research freely, asking nothing in return. Fletcher spent 3 days teaching Razor advanced neurochemistry. Grimjaw continued. A human helping an assassin sent to kill him. It defied all logic. The hologram showed the moment when the cure was complete. Razor's hands shook as he held the vial that could save his daughter. "Why?" Razor asked Fletcher. "Why help someone who came to murder you?" Fletcher smiled sadly. "Because I know what it's like to lose a child. My son died in the Corvani War. If I could have saved him, I would have done anything. Even helped my enemies." Warlord Shadowbane spoke quietly. "The assassin broke, didn't he?" Grimjaw nodded miserably. "Completely." Razor started crying. A cybernetic killer who hadn't felt emotion in centuries was sobbing like a child. He begged Fletcher's forgiveness and offered to serve him for life. The display showed Razor rushing to Medical Station 7 with the cure. His reunion with his daughter was broadcast across the galaxy, a former assassin weeping with joy as his child recovered. But that wasn't the worst part, Grimjaw continued. Fletcher asked Razor to spread the cure to every cybernetic species in the galaxy, for free. The hologram showed Razor leading a fleet of medical ships to dozens of worlds. The neural decay plague that had killed millions of cybernetic beings for centuries was eliminated in a matter of weeks. Species that had been our allies for millennia turned against us, Grimjaw said bitterly. The Cyberlords declared humans their eternal protectors. The Machine Collective offered their entire industrial capacity to human colonies. All because one human cared about a sick child. Vex studied the data. How many defections? 47 major cybernetic factions, Grimjaw replied. They all joined humanity's alliance. Our entire eastern border is now defended by beings who worship Fletcher as a savior. The hologram showed current footage of former assassin Razor working as a human diplomat. He was teaching cybernetic children how to play, his deadly weapons, replaced with toys and medical supplies. The failed assassination became a recruitment tool, Grimjaw explained. When news spread that humans had saved a dying child even while under attack, it triggered mass defections. Entire fleets abandoned their posts to join humanity. Warlord Nexus stood up heavily. This is why violence against humans is impossible. They turn our attacks into demonstrations of their goodness. Worse than that, Grimjaw added. They make us want to be good too. After watching Fletcher save Razor's daughter, some of my own generals started questioning our methods. They asked why we rule through fear when humans rule through love. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The warlords had built their empires on the principle that might makes right, but humans had proven that compassion was mightier than any weapon. I had to execute 3 generals for treason, Grimjaw admitted. They wanted to copy human methods. They said watching a father reunite with his saved daughter was more beautiful than any conquest. Shadowbane shuddered. The infection spreads to our own people. That's exactly what it is, Grimjaw agreed. An infection of empathy. Once your people see humans helping others, they start questioning why we don't do the same. Our entire power structure depends on emotional brutality. Humans make that impossible. The holographic display showed the final horror. Grimjaw's own fortress, where monuments to fallen enemies had been replaced with medical centers. His own soldiers had started, helping refugees instead of creating them. This is why I support the isolation decree, Grimjaw concluded. Not because humans might destroy us in battle, but because they would destroy us as warlords. They would turn us into something we cannot survive being, protectors instead of predators. As the evidence of the failed assassination played out, each warlord understood the terrible truth. In trying to eliminate one human, Grimjaw had accidentally created thousands of human allies. Violence against humans didn't just fail, it backfired spectacularly, turning the attackers into humanity's most devoted servants. The chamber grew darker as Warlord Shadowbane stepped forward, her form barely visible within the swirling black mist that surrounded her. In her hands, she carried a crystalline data core that pulsed with ominous red light. What you have seen, so far, Shadowbane said in her haunting voice, is nothing compared to what our deepest research has revealed. We hired the galaxy's most brilliant scientists to study human psychology. What they discovered will haunt us forever. She inserted the data core into the central projector. The holographic display transformed into a 3-dimensional map of a human brain, its neural pathways glowing like stars. This is the mind of Dr. Patricia Wells, Shadowbane explained, a human neurobiologist who volunteered for our study. She knew we were enemy agents. She knew we might use this information against her people, yet she participated willingly. Warlord Nexus frowned. Why would she help enemies study her own species? Because, Shadowbane replied grimly, she genuinely believed that understanding would lead to peace. Even with us. The brain scan revealed something that defied everything the warlords understood about sentient life. The regions associated with aggression and self-preservation were remarkably small, while areas linked to empathy and altruism blazed with activity. Human brains are fundamentally different from ours, Shadowbane continued. When we see strangers in pain, our neural response is minimal. When humans see strangers in pain, their brains react as if they themselves are being hurt. Dr. Kethvar, a skeletal alien scientist, materialized in the hologram to present his findings. The human capacity for empathy is not learned behavior. It is hardwired into their biology. They literally cannot ignore suffering, even in their enemies. The display shifted to show comparative brain scans. Warlord minds showed activity only when threatened directly. Human minds lit up like supernovas when presented with any form of distress, regardless of species. This explains their impossible victories, Dr. Kethvar continued. Humans don't study enemies to defeat them. They study them because their brains compel them to understand and alleviate suffering. It is involuntary. Warlord Vex leaned forward, his cybernetic systems processing the data. You're saying humans can't help but care about others? Precisely, Shadowbane confirmed. We discovered something even more disturbing. Humans experience genuine physical pain when they witness others suffering. Their nervous systems are wired for universal compassion. The hologram showed footage of human soldiers on various battlefields. In every case, they were treating wounded enemies with the same care as their own injured comrades. Watch Captain Lisa Park during the Mordak conflict, Shadowbane directed. The display focused on a human medic working frantically to save a Mordak warrior who had just killed 3 of her friends. See her vital signs, Dr. Kethvar noted. Elevated stress hormones, increased heart rate, dilated pupils. Her body is responding to the alien's pain as if it were her own physical injury. Grimjaw shook his head in disbelief. That's a biological weakness. Why hasn't evolution eliminated such a trait? Because it's not a weakness, Shadowbane said quietly. It's the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. The brain scan expanded to show network connections between multiple human minds. When one human helped another being, surrounding humans experienced neurochemical rewards similar to those produced by food or reproduction. Helping others gives humans the same biological satisfaction that conquest gives us, Dr. Kethvar explained. They are literally addicted to making others happy. The display showed human colonies across the galaxy. In every location, other species were thriving under human protection. Food production had increased, disease rates had plummeted, and violent crime had virtually disappeared. The most terrifying part, Shadowbane continued, is that this addiction is contagious. Prolonged exposure to human behavior rewires other species' neural pathways. The hologram revealed brain scans of former enemies after working with humans. The Bloodclaw warriors now showed empathy responses similar to humans. The Venom Syndicate's brains had developed new pathways for cooperation. Even cybernetic beings like Razor were experiencing emotions their technology was supposed to suppress. Humans are spreading biological pacifism, Dr. Kethvar concluded. Species that interact with them lose their capacity for unnecessary violence. Warlord Nexus stood up abruptly. What did the war computers conclude? Shadowbane's form darkened. Further, we fed all this data into the Omega calculator, the most advanced strategic computer ever built. Its analysis was comprehensive. The chamber's walls themselves became display screens, showing endless streams of battle simulations. Millions of scenarios played out in seconds, each one ending the same way. Probability of defeating humans in conventional warfare, 0%. The computer's voice echoed through the chamber. Probability of maintaining warlord status after human contact, 0%. Probability of species survival under human influence, 100%. The simulations showed the same pattern repeatedly. No matter how the warlords attacked, their own forces would eventually join humanity. No matter how they tried to avoid humans, their territories would request human aid during crises. The computer's final recommendation was chilling, Shadowbane said. Complete isolation from human space. Permanent withdrawal to the galaxy's edge. Abandon all current territories that might attract human attention. Vex studied the data streams. The machine declared us obsolete. Worse than obsolete, Shadowbane corrected. Incompatible with galactic survival. The computer determined that warlord-style governance prevents species from reaching their full potential. The hologram showed projections of the galaxy's future. Under warlord rule, civilization stagnated, resources were wasted on endless, conflicts and billions died needlessly. Under human influence, the same civilizations flourished, developed advanced technologies, and explored new frontiers. Humans don't just win wars, Dr. Kethvar's recorded image explained. They eliminate the need for war entirely. Their biological programming makes them natural peacekeepers. The final data set was the most damning. Every species that had encountered humans showed improved quality of life, increased lifespan, and accelerated technological development. Meanwhile, species under warlord control remained trapped in cycles of violence and fear. The universe itself benefits from human expansion, Shadowbane concluded. We are the disease. They are the cure. Grimjaw's razor teeth chattered nervously. So our choice is simple, retreat or be converted. There is no choice, Shadowbane replied. We can retreat now or we can be forcibly evolved later. But we cannot remain as we are in a galaxy where humans exist. The holographic display showed one final image, a treaty document written in dozens of alien languages. At the top, in simple English, were the words, the Galactic Non-Interference Pact. I've already prepared this, Shadowbane announced. We sign it tonight, or we lose everything we've built. As the evidence concluded, the 5 warlords faced a truth more terrifying than any weapon. Humans hadn't conquered the galaxy through superior firepower or strategic brilliance. They had conquered it through superior evolution, developing biology that made them natural healers and protectors. In a universe where strength had always meant the ability to destroy, humans had redefined strength as the ability to create and nurture. And against that kind of power, traditional warlords were not just outmatched, they were outdated. The age of ruling through fear was ending. The age of ruling through love had begun. 3 months had passed since the signing of the Galactic Non-Interference Pact. The 5 warlords had retreated to the furthest edge of known space, hiding in a dead system where no life could exist. Their combined fleets patrolled empty void, watching for any sign of human ships. Warlord Nexus stood alone on the bridge of his flagship, staring into the cosmic darkness. His empire, once spanning 1,000 worlds, now consisted of a handful of barren asteroids. But at least they were safe from human influence. "Sir," his communications officer buzzed nervously, "we're receiving a transmission on the emergency medical frequency." Nexus felt his blood freeze. "From where?" "Unknown vessel, bearing directly for our position. The signal, it's human." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. After months of perfect isolation, their greatest fear had found them. "Put it through," Nexus commanded, his voice heavy with defeat. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a young human woman with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile. She wore the blue uniform of the Human Medical Corps, with captain's stripes on her shoulders. "Greetings," she said in perfect galactic standard. "My name is Captain Diana Cross of the medical vessel Sanctuary. I hope I'm not intruding." Nexus activated his own transmission. "Captain Cross, you are violating the non-interference pact. Human ships are forbidden in this sector." Diana's expression remained kind but concerned. "I'm aware of the pact, Warlord Nexus. I'm here because of the Crimson Plague outbreak in the Andorian sector. Our sensors detected refugee ships heading toward your position." "There are no refugees here," Nexus replied firmly. "This system is uninhabitable." "Sir," his science officer interrupted quietly. "Long-range sensors are detecting 17 ships approaching from Andorian space. They appear to be damaged." Diana nodded sadly. "The Crimson Plague has devastated 4-star systems. The Andorian coalition collapsed 3 days ago. Those ships contain the last survivors, about 50,000 beings from various species." Nexus watched his tactical display as the refugee vessels limped through space. Their hulls were breached, their life support failing. At their current rate of deterioration, they would all be dead within hours. "They're heading for your position because it's the only safe harbor within range," Diana continued. "I know about your isolation decree, but these people need immediate medical attention." Grimjaw's voice crackled over the communication network. "It's a trap. She's using refugees to get close to us." "I understand your suspicion," Diana said, somehow hearing the transmission. "You've worked very hard to avoid human contact, but I can't watch 50,000 innocent beings die when I have the power to save them." The refugee ships appeared. On the main view screen, a pitiful convoy of broken vessels carrying the survivors of a galactic catastrophe. Children pressed their faces against cracked windows, their large eyes reflecting the fear of imminent death. "What do you propose?" Nexus asked reluctantly. "Let me establish a medical station on that dead moon," Diana replied. "I'll treat the refugees and leave immediately. You don't have to interact with me directly." Shadowbane's voice whispered through the comm. "Don't do it. Once we help, we're lost." But Nexus was staring at the refugee ships. Among them were species his empire had once conquered, beings his armies had tortured and enslaved. Yet here they were fleeing toward their former oppressors because they had nowhere else to go. "You have 1 hour," Nexus decided. "Then you leave our space forever." Diana smiled with genuine gratitude. "Thank you, Warlord, you're saving thousands of lives." The next hour shattered every assumption the Warlords had made about humans. Diana's medical ship, the Sanctuary, was a marvel of peaceful technology. Instead of weapons, it carried advanced hospitals, research laboratories, and enough medical supplies to treat an entire planet. The human captain worked with impossible efficiency. Her staff of doctors and nurses, many of them former enemies, converted to human service, established treatment centers on the dead moon within minutes. They began receiving refugees immediately, treating every species with equal care. Warlord Nexus, Diana's voice came over a private channel. I could use some help with the heavy lifting. My ship's cargo capacity is limited. Against every instinct, Nexus found himself ordering his fleet to assist. Warlord vessels that had never carried anything but weapons of war were suddenly transporting medical equipment and food supplies. Sir, his first officer reported, the humans are sharing their medical technology freely. They're teaching our engineers how to build emergency life support systems. Nexus watched through remote cameras as Diana worked personally to save a dying Andorian child. The little girl's scales were blackened with plague, her breathing labored. Diana spent 3 hours performing delicate surgery, never leaving the child's side. Why are you doing this? Nexus asked over the comm. Diana looked up from the surgical table, her hands still steady despite exhaustion. Because she reminds me of my own daughter, and because every life matters, regardless of who they are or where they come from. The child survived. As Diana carried her to recovery, the little Andorian wrapped tiny arms around the human's neck and whispered, "Thank you, Angel Lady." That moment broke something fundamental in Warlord Nexus. For the first time in his life, he understood what humans meant by love. The hour stretched into a day, then a week. The Warlords found themselves working alongside Diana's medical team, learning techniques they had never imagined. Shadowbane discovered she had a talent for comforting frightened children. Grimjaw learned to operate medical scanners with surprising gentleness. This is what we feared, Vex observed, watching his own soldiers volunteering in the refugee camps. We're becoming like them. Is that so terrible? Nexus replied, cradling a rescued infant whose parents had died in the plague. Diana approached him during the second week, her expression serious. Warlord, I need to tell you something. The refugee crisis was partially my fault. Nexus looked up in surprise. How? We could have reached the Andorian sector sooner, but we stopped to help. A mining accident on Kepler Station. 47 miners were trapped underground. While we were saving them, the plague spread to 3 more systems. The confession stunned Nexus. A human was admitting that her compulsion to help others had indirectly caused greater suffering. Do you regret it? He asked. Diana considered the question carefully. No, I can't save everyone, but I can save everyone I encounter. Those 47 miners are alive because we stopped. These refugees are alive because you let us help them. Every life we save makes the universe a little brighter. As the medical crisis ended and the refugees were relocated to safe worlds, Diana prepared to honor her agreement and leave. But something had changed in the Warlords themselves. Captain, Nexus called out as Diana prepared to board her ship. What if we wanted to learn more about your methods? Diana's face lit up with joy. I thought you'd never ask. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it was inevitable. The 5 most feared warlords in the galaxy slowly learned to use their vast resources for healing instead of conquest. Their fleets became rescue armadas. Their weapons factories started producing medical equipment. Grimjaw established the first intergalactic children's hospital. Shadowbane created a network of trauma counselors for war survivors. Vex developed new technologies for treating cybernetic diseases. But it was Nexus who made the most dramatic change. He disbanded his empire entirely, transforming it into the Galactic Humanitarian Alliance. Former soldiers became teachers, doctors, and engineers. Conquest ships became exploration vessels, spreading knowledge instead of fear. How do you feel about your transformation? Diana asked Nexus during their first anniversary celebration. The former warlord looked out at a garden world that had once been a military fortress. Children of dozens of species played together while their parents worked on projects that benefited everyone. I feel like I finally understand what strength really means, Nexus replied. It's not the power to destroy your enemies, it's the courage to help them become friends, Diana smiled, watching a group of young Andorians teaching human children how to paint with their natural bioluminescence. The galaxy is healing. Thanks to you humans showing us the way. No, Diana corrected gently. Thanks to all of us, choosing compassion over conquest. Humans didn't change you, Nexus. We just helped you remember what you could have been all along. As the celebration continued around them, the former warlord realized the ultimate truth. Humans hadn't conquered the galaxy through superior force. They had liberated it through superior wisdom. They had proven that the strongest civilizations were built not on the ashes of enemies, but on the foundation of friendship. The age of warlords was over. The age of healers had begun. And for the first time in galactic history, that felt like victory for everyone.